So how did you first get involved with TSC? So how'd you get it going and everything?
Well, actually, it's the organization. The corporate name of the organization is Friends of Science East, and it actually started about 20 years ago with some local residents that they created a small science museum in the village of Shoreham, which is actually right now where Tesla Lab currently exists. And the museum actually went away. It was actually in a high school, and it eventually sort of morphed into this organization to protect, to save and protect the Tesla laboratory. And very few people um, in the area really knew about the legacy that was there. It was an old industrial plant, and so I've only been involved with the organization for the last 7 years or so. I got involved because as a high school teacher, I saw that there was a conference on Tesla, and I didn't really know. I knew of Tesla, and I knew I'm a physics teacher, so I have a little background in the science, and so I knew his contributions, but I really had no idea that he was such a huge part of the local. Sort of the local lore, so to speak. And so when I went to this conference, which was actually given by this organization, Friends of Science East, I was really fascinated by it, and I kind of volunteered. I said, hey, I'm interested in preserving legacy and letting people know about all the things that Nikola Tesla had done. Because prior to the conference, I really hadn't. I knew about AC power, but that was about it. And there was so many other things that were a part of it.
Why do you think it is that relative to other scientists, Edison, Einstein, even Westinghouse, etc., Tesla is such a relatively unknown character in science?
Well, it's hard to say. We talk about when we talk about Edison and Tesla. I mean, they were big rivals, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that Edison was American, and Edison actually had a little bit of a head start in the business aspect of electricity. He had the business going, and he really pushed hard on DC electrical transmission. What a lot of people are surprised at is that Tesla actually worked for Edison, for the Continental Edison Company in France. And so Tesla was he really looked up to Edison in his formative years. Once he realized, that Edison was pretty solidly not going to endorse, sort of the new ideas that Tesla had, then, I think his feeling changed a little bit. But I think that surprised a lot of people that Tesla did work for Edison.
Apart from the well-known alternating current that you mentioned, what would you say is Tesla's next greatest contribution to the modern world?
There's just so many things that people don't realize that Tesla was involved in. AC current is such a big one, and we take it for granted. It's such a huge part of, it is a huge part of our lives, but we don't really give it a second thought. But he was also a pioneer. He created the notion of robotics, and he also developed the concept of remote control, which nobody really had given any thought to. He was actually even dabbling in X-rays, and I think that was a curiosity that he sort of put aside. He didn't really look into it, but had he could have gone that way too. I mean, there's just so many different areas that he could have gone into. I think for me, it's not so much any of those areas that are such a big part of Tesla. Tesla sort of embodies this innovative, very kind of brash, hey, I've got this idea, I'm going to go with it. And so I think, he embodied at that time such a part of the American spirit. he didn't come from America, but he really, that entrepreneurial spirit, I think he took on, as far as the creativity and the innovation. And these are things that we, 100 years later, we're still trying to get students to do, be innovative, be creative. And he's like he's the guy, if it interested him, he just went for it. He said, I'm going to check this out. And so if you look at all these different patents, he has such a variety of things that he invented that are just amazing. He's got turbines, he's got oscillators. I mean, you name it, he was involved in it.
So do you believe that he was truly on the verge of providing free and wireless energy to everybody?
Well, a lot of people kind of get caught up on the free part. I think he was not a great businessman. So, I don't think he would have, his goal was not to give it away for free, but the part that he was working on was transmitting the electricity wirelessly, transmitting energy wirelessly. And so that was his focus. The making money part, he always kind of, left that as a secondary idea. And so I don't think he was really out to give, the world free electricity. But I think he was looking for a more efficient way to deliver it, to get people the energy. Because, if you think now, right, the build out of the electrical grid as we know it today, it has taken a long time to get to where we are. And right now, we're at a point where we have to update the grid, right? We're talking about smart grid technology, and there's a lot of copper wire out there. There's a lot of aluminum wire out there. And so if we could eliminate that, think about what's happened to cellular telephones. Very few people have, I wouldn't say few, but the number of landlines has diminished tremendously, to the point where here on Long Island, the telephone company, there's certain neighborhoods where the telephone company would just like to scrap all the landlines and just go. This is particularly after we had that hurricane last year. They don't even want to string the wire anymore. They just want to put cell sites in. And so it's a lot more efficient to do it that way.
Sure, that makes sense. You might have covered this already with Tesla having once worked for Edison, but what is the neatest obscure fact about Tesla that most people won't know?
There's a few. What I think, when he worked out at Wardenclyffe, which is now the village of Shoreham, one of the really interesting things that I always thought was fascinating is his personal assistant would actually bring his food out from the Waldorf Astoria each day by train. And Tesla had he was very particular about what he ate. And so, the chefs at the Waldorf, I don't know, I'm pretty sure the chefs at the Waldorf could probably get the right food for me too. But I can't imagine what the cost was to actually have his personal assistant take the train out, because it's a couple-hour ride on the train from Manhattan out to where this laboratory is. So that was one. And then I was, a few of them came to mind, but one of the things I think was really interesting is the last 10 years of his life he lived in the New Yorker Hotel. And what's really interesting is the New Yorker Hotel had one of the largest DC power plants in its basement. And so the hotel actually ran on DC power. And it actually didn't fully, even today, I think there's still parts of it that run on DC power. I think their elevator motors still run on DC power. And so this is just an irony there. I think it's just really, here he is living the master of AC power, living in a hotel that uses DC.
So why did he stop his research and close Wardenclyffe?
Well, it wasn't really his choice. He was basically in a race with Marconi to transmit wireless signals across the ocean. And so he was sort of in a race to do that. And once Marconi did that, I think Marconi, if I remember, it was like 1901, 1902, that Marconi made that transmission from England to Newfoundland, that race was over. And that's what his financial backers really wanted. J.P. Morgan was one of his big financial backers. And J.P. Morgan wanted to be able to sort of figure out what the financial markets were doing in England and in Europe before we could find out here. And so that was a key part of it. So I think, and then the other part was just sort of cost overruns. Tesla, I think, liked to spend money on a lot of side projects that he wasn't necessarily telling his investors about, and so he was spending more money than he should have been. And so he went back after Marconi had made that transmission. He went back to J.P. Morgan, asked for more money, and J.P. Morgan just said, "Listen, I'm not going to give you any more money." And he at that point, Tesla said at that point that, I've got a new plan. I'm gonna come up with this wireless transmission of electricity, and I think you want to be involved in that. And that wasn't really of any interest to J.P. Morgan. So he ran out of money, and he was there for a number of years, but he just couldn't really make it go because he just didn't have the finances.
It seems like recently there's been a lot of Tesla popping up in popular culture, from that MythBusters episode where they tested a lot of his claims, and his appearance in the movie Prestige where he was played by David Bowie, and then there's an upcoming actual Tesla feature-length film next year. What do you think has brought on all of this sort of recent craze about him?
Yeah, it's really sort of also coincided with us. I mean, we not that we're the cause of it, but we've been the benefit of it. There has been this sort of resurgence of Tesla, excitement, and I don't know. It's hard to say where it's been coming from. I think a lot of people identify with Tesla as being the underdog, against Edison in the War of the Currents, and there's just such a fascinating story in Tesla himself that it just kind of lends itself to a movie. There's just so many aspects of his life. He was a bit of a showman. I mean, I think in the Prestige, it's about like showmanship, and Tesla figured out pretty early that showmanship is a way to sell something, to sell an idea. And so that's what people, I think, identify with. And I think people who are making these movies and who are making these references to them, I think they can make something of it. As far as MythBusters, I don't know. I think if I remember, they were testing the earthquake machine, right? I think, and so that was a story that Tesla liked to tell. And I think the story might have gotten a little exaggerated over time. I think, he, I'm sure he was able to get some resonance to occur. I mean, resonance is a really, really powerful phenomenon that can occur in the physical world. But he had a relatively small, I think it was like, something like he could fit in his pocket or something like that. And it was a steam oscillator. So I don't know that that would resonate a whole building to bring it down, but it's probably unlikely. And I think in that episode, didn't they bust it? I think they busted it.
I think they busted everything but the earthquake machine, because they actually got an entire bridge to shake. So, but a couple of other ones.
I don't think you could bring the building down.
No, but they stopped it out of safety concerns or something like that. But one final question: how is progress coming along on the Tesla Science Center? When are you guys expecting to open?
It's going to be a while. We were able to buy the land due to the Indiegogo campaign, and Matthew Inman was a huge part of that. And so we need a lot more money. The Indiegogo campaign, we got about $1.4 million, as you might be aware of. And as it turns out, we have, in the last year, we've been very busy trying to figure out assessing all the buildings, figuring out what the property is, what we can do with the property, and the actual laboratory itself, and some of the buildings that are actually in contact with it, that are contiguous with it, they have lots of mold and lots of asbestos, which is a little bit heartbreaking. But some of the buildings actually we have to spend somewhere on the order of about $1 million to remove the asbestos and the mold, from his laboratory and some of the other buildings. And those other buildings, even if we're tearing them down, we still have to spend that money to remediate those problems. So we're working on getting the financing. We need donations. In fact, tomorrow is Nikola Tesla's 158th birthday. So we have a celebration. If you check our website, there's going to be a live streaming of the event that's there tomorrow. So you're welcome to join in on that. And we're going to have some special announcements there too that you might want to pay attention to as well. Things are happening. How much money do we need? Probably in the order of several tens of millions of dollars. And so at the moment, we're not there yet. So we're hoping to get some generous benefactors to come and help us and to make some donations to get us there. The Indiegogo campaign, if you remember, we had 33,000 people from 108 countries donate money, and I think the average donation was around $42, $45, somewhere around there. And so, I mean, that's just so tremendous that Tesla was able to pull together all these people from all around the world to help save this very important landmark. So, you can keep in touch with us, keep in touch with the website. We have visitors all the time. We have people that come and volunteer, and work on the grounds. And I'm always amazed at the level of enthusiasm that people have for Tesla. I mean, it just makes us so excited as a member of the board. I'm just so excited to meet people each and every day that are just as enthusiastic about Tesla as I am.
Sounds great. Well, thank you for your time so very much.
Thank you.
We'll let you get back to your lunch break.
Anything else I can answer for you?
I think we're good to go. If you have any other just final words you want to say or anything else you want to mention that we didn't get to.
No, just that I know, I think, Chance, you said you donated. You got a T-shirt on.
Yeah.
And so I want to thank you so much for making that donation. And anybody else who's made that donation who might see this video, again, we're so appreciative of your help. And we really look forward to getting it all up and running as soon as we can.